Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Holy Comforter Bible Study. We are talking about the text for the fourth Sunday after Epiphany, and we start with Jeremiah. We found Jeremiah 6:36. Yeah, it's after Isaiah, before Ezekiel, Old Testament. Okay, so the text is for verses 4 through 10, but I think we just need to go through the first three verses just so we get a sense of kind of what's going on. I'll read this. The words of Jeremiah, son of Hilkiah, of the priests who were in Anathoth in the land of Benjamin, to whom the word of the Lord came in the days of King Josiah, son of Amon of Judah, in the 13th year of his reign. Okay, so at this point, and you can see on your sheet here, King Josiah of Judah reigned from 640 to 609 BC. By this point, the whole sort of chunk there of the land that was inhabited by the Jews had been split. Right after there was King David, and then King Solomon. After King Solomon died, there was a civil war, and there was the separation between the kingdom of Israel in the north and the kingdom of Judah in the south. So this is Judah, and this is where Jerusalem is in the kingdom of Judah. So it's just important to remember, even in the sort of the Old Testament, I think sometimes we can get caught into thinking, oh, the Jews, they were all the same. Like, no, there was a civil war. It actually wasn't all hunky-dory even there in the sort of promised land. So that's what's happening. And then it says, it came also in the days of King Jehoiakim, son of Josiah of Judah, and until the end of the 11th year of King Zedekiah, son of Josiah of Judah, until the captivity of Jerusalem in the 5th month. That's the destruction of Jerusalem and the temple in 586 BC. So that kind of gives you a little bit of sort of context. Okay, so somebody read 4 through 10.
I will. Now the word of the Lord came to me, saying, Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you, and before you were born, I consecrated you. I appointed you a prophet to the nations. Then I said, Ah, Lord God, truly I do not know how to speak, for I am only a boy. But the Lord said to me, Do not say I am only a boy, for you shall go to all to whom I send you, and you shall speak whatever I command you. Do not be afraid of them, for I am with you to deliver you, says the Lord. Then the Lord put out his hand and touched my mouth, and the Lord said to me, Now I have put my words in your mouth. See, today I appoint you over nations and over kingdoms, to pluck up and to pull down, to destroy and to overthrow, to build and to plant.
Thank you. Okay, what do y'all hear? Anything?
He's being commissioned.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. There's the resonance here with Moses. When God calls Moses at the burning bush, he says, like, not me, please find somebody else. I mean, there's not a whole lot, I think it's sort of like, personally, I've had this experience all the time. God calling me to do something and me saying, that sounds like a great job for somebody else, but not for me. Y'all ever experience this?
Yeah, we have a young woman that lives in our youth group who's a friend of our child's, and she's been called to go and teach in Haiti for 6 months.
Oh, wow.
And there's a little boy in an orphanage. It's one of the poor orphanages where they don't have the food or the water. Yeah. And she's been over there a bunch of times to see him, but she's struggling, and she's probably one of the strongest young people that we ever took on mission trips and her and our youth group and things. And we've known her since she was tiny. And to hear her struggle, I'm thinking, Lord, I know if my call had been to go, I don't know that I could have done that call. And she's one that I really didn't think would have this. It's just so hard in a third world country.
Oh, yeah.
Suddenly, she can't even help the poor dogs that are there, and that just breaks her heart, much less the children.
Right.
So yeah, watching somebody go to their calling. And
yeah.
struggle like that.
Yeah.
And she didn't turn it down, or
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes, you wish your calling were that clear.
Well, yeah, there's
Yeah.
that
The
too.
word of the Lord came to me,
Yeah.
and it came as a person.
Right,
So we're
right.
talking about, I guess, the pre-incarnate Jesus here. When
Yeah.
you see word,
Yeah, so
of the
word.
Lord,
Yeah, I mean,
it's-
what is word? That's a really good question. This sort of, how did Jeremiah even receive this? Was it a dream? Was it somebody else sort of speaking? Was it a vision? It doesn't really.
Well, he reached out his hand and touched my mouth. That's
Yeah,
that's
there's-
pretty physical.
And there's also this in Isaiah chapter 6. The same thing happens. Isaiah is in the temple, and he sort of has this vision to where the hem of God's robe fills the temple, right? And the angel comes and sort of touches him on the lips. Yeah, I mean, it is powerful. It's really powerful.
Yeah.
But again, was that a dream, a vision? I don't know.
We certainly felt like it was strong enough.
Oh yeah. But I mean, the excuses, right? Like we all come up with the excuses.
Mm-hmm.
So is there anything now that God is calling you to do that you're resisting?
I have no idea. That's why I wish it were that clear.
Yeah.
Exactly right. I mean, if it was
Yeah.
done this clear,
Sure.
I mean, words, it's like getting a lecture.
Yeah.
But
Interesting.
I haven't gotten it in a lecture form. It's
Interesting.
bits and pieces.
Mhm.
So.
Yeah, and here's the promise that you don't really have to know what to say. Sort of like,
Yeah.
you don't have to know what to say. I put my words in your mouth, and I've given you
Uh-huh.
the ability to influence people. And see today, I point you over nations to build up and tear down, and that's a pretty powerful thing to do with words.
Yeah.
So he's been equipped for this ministry in ways that sometimes we may feel the call, but we don't feel the equipping.
Yeah.
How am I going to do this? I mean, is this really a call when there's no empowerment?
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah, but that's part of us saying, is he really calling us?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The equipment is really there if
Yeah.
we feel that
Yeah.
call, but that's part of kind of our way of getting out of it. I think that sometimes thinking,
Yeah.
oh, my strength.
There's a sort of a phrase that's always bandied about people sort of discerning the call of the priesthood is that God does not call the equipped, God equips the called, which I think it's like, yeah, that's so
It
true.
takes you out of your comfort zone.
Right.
I've heard you say that to people too.
Yeah. And that's so hard. I mean, and at least the thing I struggle with is like, oh God, I wish this was somebody else. Like this again, like this sounds like a great job for somebody else. Equip them, don't equip me.
There was a time in my life when I felt a call for a particular ministry in another church, and it turned out to be such a dismal failure that I wondered if I had mistaken.
Mm,
Sometimes you, in the heat of the moment, you think you hear,
yeah.
or when there's something going on in your church and they're recruiting,
Sure.
and you think,
Yeah.
oh yeah, this is it, and then you get there and it's.
But so here's the interesting thing. Reading then the whole sort of text of Jeremiah is that he does this and life then sucks for him.
Mhm.
Because, he goes to speak to the ruling elites in Jerusalem saying like, it's really, like you're going to be destroyed by the Babylonians. What you're doing is bad and wrong. And they throw him down a well, like a cistern. So it's also, I think there's also the sense like, yeah, if you do what God is calling you to do, God does not make a promise that
Exactly.
it's going to be great. Like it might just be miserable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you agree, but maybe not what you thought you would do, or how
Yeah.
you thought you would handle it. Yeah, I don't think the calling is always successful
Yeah.
in our eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe the
That's right.
judgment isn't,
Right.
we're the wrong ones judging it.
Yeah.
you may have touched somebody or done something.
Haven't you gone through life and never, and 20 years later, someone comes up to you and says, you made all the difference in the world to me when you helped me with my English in high school, and you say, what?
Yeah.
Right.
I don't remember that.
That's right.
Yeah.
Just being nice.
Yeah.
So you just don't know.
You don't know what you
Yeah.
did.
What you
and
did.
have to be okay with
Right.
it. It's kind of hard.
There's something else I've been thinking about is that nothing is wasted in God's economy. I think that's also true. And it's that same thing, is that that there is no success or failure. Maybe that's the thing that we have to take off the table as Christians, is that there's no such thing as that in God's economy, in the kingdom of God.
Because we don't know.
Right.
What we're doing.
Right. There is faithfulness.
We don't know what we did.
Yeah. Yeah.
You do it with the heart that you were supposed to do it with.
Right. Yeah. Anybody have experience like that? I mean, you kind of mentioned that.
But I've never felt a calling to do something and then felt that, oh dear, I didn't do this well,
Yeah.
particularly. But I do know,
Yeah.
just from being old,
Yeah.
that there are many times when something you say touches someone,
Yeah.
and it's not as big as going to Haiti necessarily,
Right. No, it's not.
or anything that somebody can point to, but you just never know when what you say is going to lift someone up.
Yeah.
That's why we're not supposed to judge it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes,
even
we're
if
not.
we do it and
Yeah.
we think, gosh, it could have been done so much better if they'd chosen someone else. That's not our place.
Yeah.
You know, we're not in
That's right.
charge of anything
Yeah.
of ourselves.
And how do you even know that, right? I mean,
Yeah, you
yeah.
just have to do it with faith.
Yeah. Hmm. Okay, let's go on to 1 Corinthians 13. Love passage.
Have you seen anything going around on Facebook and some places, but about, you know, when your daughter or your son tells you they're in love with somebody for the first time, you know, and you have them put that person's name in the phrases.
Oh, sure. Oh,
I
interesting.
think it's a kind of nice way to teach a kid it's okay to be in love.
Yeah. I haven't seen that.
Yeah, I'm a grown up to learn that.
So just kind of recap. Here we are in the Corinthian congregation. There's fighting. There's these factions. They're not really sort of at love with one another. And I think a lot of times we read 1 Corinthians 13 like that, like, you know, Paul, you know, like a wedding, like, let's patient, let's kind. But think of it more as we read it tonight as Paul scolding them, because I think actually he's like, love is patient, love is kind, you bozos. Like, I think there's a little bit of an edge to it, saying that, you know, if you're truly this kind of community, you would love each other. So to read 1 through 13, the whole chapter. Chris, will you read it?
Sure. If I speak in the tongues of mortals and of angels, but do not have love, I am a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. And if I have prophetic powers and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have all faith so as to remove mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing. If I give away all my possessions, and if I hand over my body so that I may boast, but do not have love, I gain nothing. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love is not envious or boastful or arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice in wrongdoing, but it rejoices in the truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, and endures all things. Love never ends. But as for prophecies, they will come to an end. As for tongues, they will cease. As for knowledge, it will come to an end. For we know only in part,
and we prophesy only in part. But when the complete comes, the partial will come to an end. When I was a child, I spoke like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. When I became an adult, I put an end to childish ways. For now we see in a mirror dimly, but then we will see face to face. Now I know only in part. Then I will know fully, even as I have been fully known. And now faith, hope, and love abide, these three, and the greatest of these is love.
Thank you.
He is scolding.
Yeah. There's that. Which,
Well, also instructing, because
Yeah.
it's easy to, love is such a nebulous thing that really does need defining, and it needs defining especially in the way that in the way it's manifested in the world, not just between two people, but that he's kind of laying out a set of expectations
yeah.
that needs to be done, that needs to be said, and it needs to be said a lot. It needs to be said over and over again. We have really short memories
Yeah.
when it comes to how we treat other people rather than what we need, that constant reminder.
Right.
And it's nice to have it in writing. It's
Yeah.
so succinct. And,
Yeah.
we just need to go over it and over it and over it.
Yeah. And y'all have maybe heard this in Greek. There are 4 different words for love. This is the word is agape, which is the sort of self-sacrificial type love. It's not the sort of romantic or erotic or even sort of familial. It's just a different sense to it.
Yeah.
What else? Okay, look at verse 12. Okay, so for now we've seen a mirror dimly. I didn't know this. Corinth, the town of Corinth was known for making mirrors. Like, oh, see, Paul's pretty clever actually. It's sort of like, y'all know this, that preachers preach depending on their context. I mean, a sermon about oil prices in Houston would not work in Boston, Massachusetts. It's just like, so even if you're going for the same sort of thing, the way you have to address it is differently. And so, Paul in that is just the sort of, he knows his context. But then we will see face to face. Now, this is what I find so fascinating. Now I know only in part, then I will fully know, even as I have been fully known. I think there's this thing where, or at least I once thought that I knew myself the best out of all the people in the world. The one who knew me the best was me. And then I kind of came to this realization in reading that, like, the story of my birth, I cannot tell because I wasn't, and even much of my childhood, I cannot tell that story. And then it will be somebody else who tells the story of my death, my last days. So in a sense, it's really the community and it's God who knows us best and not us. And it is that sort of then trusting that loving community to carry that story for you. I think that's a huge, for me, that was a big sort of thing to get over. I was like, okay, I'm not the one that knows me best even. It's like, oh, that was just difficult, maybe, learning process.
Well, it's kind of like when you sit in a group and everybody tells something about that person that they value or that they and they say things that you didn't even think about yourself or didn't see it in that way. I think some of it's that.
Yeah.
I think that's where you realize you're probably not really totally into yourself as much as you think you are.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
They always say something that you just,
Yeah.
that's how they see that.
Yeah. Ooh, yeah.
Maybe that's not what I wanted here.
Yeah.
Maybe it's
Yeah.
something, it's quality.
Yeah. Or like Maggie will say to me, "You're stressed out." No, I'm not. And she go, "Well, whenever you do this, this, and this, that means you're." I'm like, oh God, it's like, But I do think then that's the love, is that trusting that person enough in love to be able to say those difficult things to you and to be able to hear them without sort of bristling and being, any of these other things, resentful, irritable.
Okay, help me understand more about 8 through 12, the end of 12. So he's talking about how the things that we do is prophesy, which is, and speak in tongues and acquire knowledge, how that's all going to pass away.
Yeah.
But this part about, but then it seems disjointed. It doesn't seem to hang together for me. When I was a child, when I was immature, and then I put childish ways behind me, was when I help me relate those two.
Yeah.
Thoughts.
So what I think he's really telling this congregation, I think y'all are acting like children, and that when you grow up, that when you grow up, you'll see that the sort of love is that core value, so to speak. Because I think right now, in the way I read 1 Corinthians, is that the people there are trying to prove their worthiness and their holiness, depending on,
What
do
they
you have
can
the
do.
spirit of prophecy? Do you have the spirit of tongues?
They're
Whatever. And I think he's saying,
they're focused on the outer
right,
manifestation,
right,
pride in what they can do, rather
right.
than allowing love to knit them together as a community.
I think so. And saying that, so love never ends. These other things,
Okay.
you're going to grow up, and then that's really what matters. That's the way I see it.
Time to grow up and let go
Yeah.
of pride.
And I do think also it's a highly contextual thing. He says, and now faith, hope, and love abide, these three, and the greatest of these is love, which is actually not what he says to the church in 1 Thessalonians. He says these things, but the greatest of these is hope. It's interesting because I think the congregation in Thessalonica needed to hear hope. That they, in 1 Thessalonians, their concern is these people have died before Jesus has come back. And so they're sort of like, so what does that mean? Like, are they sort of not loved, or and so he writes, no, you have hope. I think here he's writing, have love. It's really interesting. And so I think it's also just a contextual thing.
Well, that's contextual. Doesn't mean that we shouldn't hear all of his lectures. But it's nice to know, or to try to figure out what he's talking about, who he's talking to, and why he's saying the things he has. And that it doesn't matter that he doesn't say the same thing in two different people, because it's two different situations, or 3 or 4.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Know
Absolutely.
your audience.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, of course. And then I think we have the problem 2,000 years removed, that we kind of put our lens into it then, and we think he's speaking to us. He's not speaking to us. We kind of have to unpack some of that and then sort of go, okay. We've all been in congregations where there have been divisions and whatnot. And, so then we've also been in congregations where there's no hope. And so I think that we can hear both of those things.
And to take one over the other, or to the exclusion of others, is wrong.
Right. Yeah.
Because he said more. He said different things.
Yep.
Boy, they sure must have been. I see a lot of speaking in tongues here, so they really must have been focused on chapter 14 is all about.
Yeah. And I think what Paul's getting at is, like,
that was their barometer.
Yeah,
for
this is
how
what
holy you were.
Right.
Right.
Like, oh, that's a weird thing, but whatever.
Well, there's still churches whose barometer.
Yes.
I know. Well, yeah.
Well,
But that's just a lesson that they've got.
Yeah. So my spiritual connection question then, it kind of goes along these lines, not necessarily, but when as a community, family, friends, or church told you the truth about yourself, maybe the truth that you couldn't see. And again, that's really
Well, and it's what Karen was mentioning about, since we for you want to see.
I was thinking about youth
forever.
groups. Yeah.
I mean, you put the kids in there like after a retreat or a long weekend, and then you have them reflect on each other.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
one of these remarkable things
Oh, yeah.
amazing.
that the kids just get
Yeah.
so validated.
Yeah.
Mm.
You know, you think
Yeah.
they're just the worst thing in the world, and
It's hard
then
age
have,
anyway.
it is, and
Yeah.
then have it encouraged and validated by your peers. Is
Oh, yeah.
remarkable stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it is a good point. Because it's not always bad things. All the time,
No,
you
a
know,
lot
it's
of
good
things
things.
that you
Yeah.
have inside that you didn't know you were being
Yeah.
received that way.
Yeah.
Same thing with mission trips, kind of the same
Uh-huh.
idea that, or you'll see something, starting to happen inside yourself, and validation comes from
Yeah.
the people you're working with.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
The whole world changes.
Uh-huh.
Especially when you do a mission trip where you're, engrossed in it, and then you have to come back to the real world and you're like, oh, this is really ugly out here,
Yeah, isn't that wild? Yeah.
We had such a good thing going, and now we have to come back to
Yeah.
get fit in the real world, which
Politics.
is really hard.
Yeah, no, it is interesting. I have
is.
definitely had those experiences. Maybe I'll have like a spiritual retreat or something like this is it, and then
And, it's
And you
Monday
try to
morning.
hang on
Yeah.
to it.
Yeah, you
and how
try.
hard, you try to.
which is actually this is a good sort of segue into Luke 4 because that's exactly I think what's happening. So Luke chapter 4, we've just had Jesus's first sermon in Nazareth. And Nazareth is his hometown. He said, I've come to proclaim release to the captives, good news to the poor, to let the oppressed go free. What the people were thinking is like, finally, he's here to kick out the Roman Empire.
Yeah.
And, it's
You have
then
no
takes a
idea.
little bit of a turn. And I'll read it. Then Jesus began to say to them, today the scripture has been fulfilled in your hearing. Sorry, this is verse 21. 22, all spoke well of him and were amazed at the gracious words that came from his mouth. They said, is not this Joseph's son? He said to them, doubtless you will quote to me this proverb, doctor, cure yourself. And you will say, do here also in your hometown the things that we have heard you did at Capernaum. And he said to them, truly I tell you, no prophet is accepted in the prophet's hometown. But the truth is, there were many widows in Israel in the time of Elijah when the heaven was shut up 3 years and 6 months, and there was a severe famine over all the land. Yet Elijah was sent to none of them except to a widow at Zarephath in Sidon. And there were also many lepers in Israel in the time of the prophet Elisha, and none of them was cleansed except Naaman the Syrian. When they heard this, all in the synagogue were filled with rage. They got up and drove him out of the town and led him to the brow of the hill on which their town was built so that they might hurl him off the cliff. But he passed through the midst of them and went on his way. But this is it, right? I mean, so there's, you grow up, you go away, you come back, and if you are not that same person, the system around you freaks out. And one of two things will happen is that the system rejects you or you go back to your old ways. I think this is actually what happens on after mission trips. We have this sort of experience and then Monday morning comes and you're like, what? But I'm a square peg now and you're a round hole. And it's sort of, there's that just.
Well, it's even when you grow up in a church and you go off to college and you come back
Yeah.
and you try to fit in as an adult.
Yeah.
To adults that that were adults when you were a child.
Mhm.
That was hard to do.
Right. And the classic thing is you go off to college and your political ideas change, right? And you come back and your parents are like, what? I mean, it's all of that stuff.
Yeah.
When he goes though to 25 and he goes
Yes.
on down, is he talking about here? You're not my favorite people. I'm not going to just do this for you.
Yeah.
And these other people didn't just do it for the people
The
that were in front,
insiders.
the insiders.
Right. Yeah, I think what's going on, because this is part of Luke's whole project, is to show that the mission of Jesus is for all people,
Right.
and that all people now are invited into this community. even, the sort of widows at Sidon, name of the Syrian, the sort of traditional outsiders, the non-Jews are also part of this new community.
And they had been in the past.
Right.
He's kind of reminding them
Yeah.
here.
I mean, and it's like, this is what happens, right? You try to change a community. I mean, and it's like whenever there's a new prayer book in the Episcopal Church, it's like, everybody freaks out because something has changed, or, and then, it's just that anxiety. Yeah, so y'all should, I have the notations here for the stories of 1 Kings and 2 Kings with Elijah and Elisha. And it is really interesting that here are these sort of times of great crisis for the Jews, and God sends his prophets not to the Jews, but to the outsiders.
Right.
Because I think it's also that sort of almost not judgment as in like I'm judging you, I'm throwing you to hell or whatever, but it's sort of, it judges the people that they see that, God can even work with them, then surely God can work with us. You're sort of, maybe more of a conviction. If God can work with the outsider, then God can truly work with us.
They didn't want him working with the outsider.
No. Yeah, and so I think that's the sort of catch, though, is that, well, you don't want to work with that person. Yeah.
Well, that kind of would counter to our belief that he was sent to them politically to free them from Rome. I mean, what are you doing working with these other people? You're supposed to be here saving us.
Yeah.
So we can restore our kingdom and be the top dog again.
Yep.
So they were still seeing him as a political entity.
Oh, yeah.
What, Jesus says, surely you will quote this proverb to me, physician, heal yourself.
Yeah.
Is that from Proverbs, or do we know? I can't. There's a little squiggle in front of it.
Yeah.
I can't
So
tell
I'm
what
looking
it is.
at
I think
it.
it's C.
I'm only looking at my notes. So I'm totally cheating by reading one of my comments. It says this was common in Greek and Jewish lore.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, no, it's not actually in Proverbs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But now, of course, this should also, when we read the story, also think of his crucifixion, right? There's a hill, they're trying to kill him. Remember, they say, if you're the Messiah, come down from the cross and save yourself. So I think this is also, it's really interesting that you have now at the beginning of his ministry, a sort of image of what the end of his ministry looks like. So when we get to Holy Week, think of this also, like, okay, there's going to be some weird connections here. And that doctor, cure yourself. If you're the Messiah, come down and save yourself. You're going to be like, whoa, it's all right there.
So he's.
Okay, so, I mean, is there a time now, okay, so here's the sort of, this is what I've been thinking about, and the sort of sneak peek to my sermon. A lot of times we talk about how, we've gone off and changed, and we want this system to then sort of accept us when we come back. The hard part is that when we're the system and somebody around us has changed, and we try to put them back into the way that we know them. And so this story, I think, cuts both ways, that it's also the lesson that we need to give the grace that we wish to receive. And that's what I've been thinking a lot about recently is, how have I sort of contributed to other people not rising to their fullest potential or whatever because of the system that I'm in.
My expectation.
Right.
No, I think that's pretty basic to human nature. We don't like change.
Yeah.
We want to keep things.
Yeah.
It's really, people can't change unless
Yeah.
It's hard for people to change. It's possible, but a lot of people fail because people around them are not letting them change. They're still, I will only love you if you're like this, and this, or you're only acceptable in this circle of friends if you're this, and this. And that a lot of people just don't have the courage to
Yeah.
flout that.
Yeah.
Well, families think of the child as one
Yeah.
way, and
Right.
as they grow and develop, it's like they always say, don't tell a child that they're always messy, or that they're, they're the slow one, or they're the one that was
Yeah.
always last, or anything that puts them in a way that they would think of themselves, because as they grow, certainly they have the right to not be the one that's messy anymore.
Yep.
That may have just been but a lot of families in particular will hang on to things like that.
Oh, yeah, and
They
it
grow to that
happens.
expectation.
Mm-hmm.
It happens too when you're struggling to form a new habit,
Yes.
or to overcome an addiction, or form
Yeah.
a better habit.
Yeah.
And the people around you, particularly family, who've seen you
Right.
and do the same things over and over and over again, and they don't trust you.
Yeah.
They
Oh,
don't
yeah.
trust your ability to change, and it's hard for them
Yeah.
to just let go and see what happens.
Right.
To let you be yourself.
Yeah. Have you all heard of the concept called the implementation dip? So you have a process or something, and you're going along like this, and you try to implement some new process, and you think your productivity or whatever is going to go like that, but it goes like this, because you first have to learn the new thing before you can go up. So
Oh, yeah.
we
That works both ways too,
Happens all
doesn't
the time.
it?
I was thinking in the church office, we got like a new server, and we thought it was going to like solve the world for us, but actually
Some of you did.
it caused this huge headache as they had to figure out like how to then transfer the database over. And so it
Right.
was clearly the implementation dip.
We're still in that steep learning curve.
Yeah.
Trust me.
But I think
But it'll be fine.
but it's all of that, is that we can just keep plugging along. And I think Jesus could have kept doing that and kind of reverted to his role as Joseph's son. But he says, like, I have this new role now. I'm a new person. This is now what I've come to do. And, the system doesn't like that.
Mm-mm. What was it in Capernaum that he did? Do what you did in Capernaum.
Yeah, I don't think he's done anything yet.
Yeah, I was looking back at Luke, and I was trying to say,
Yeah, I don't think he's done anything yet.
Heard what you did.
Again, it's that sort of, you kind of wish the Gospels were fleshed out a little bit more.
Yeah, that was just an aside.
Yeah,
I don't want to
yeah.
detract from our
No, you're
point
fine.
there.
Yeah, you're fine. You're fine.
No, honestly, I'm amazed at how much stuff they did get down.
Yeah.
I mean, so
Right.
oh yeah, they're missing this part going. It still blows me away
See, yeah.
without,
You're more gracious than I am.
it's
Yeah.
the whole communication back then and the writing of these things, putting them together.
Now it's
Wow.
300 years later when some of these were
Wow.
written.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's
Pulling
crazy.
from other
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
things and stories that are passed
Mhm.
down and passed down.
Mhm.
We
And
don't
to
do a
pull
very
it
good job
together.
of that.
Yeah.
That blows
Oh, yeah.
me away how they
Yeah. No, I mean, it is amazing that we actually have anything.
Yeah, anywhere from 100 to
Yeah.
200 years.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other time you've sort of been in a system and you've tried to change the system, or the system, has not changed? I'm just kind of
When
curious.
you're in your family and you're seeing that something needs to be done with maybe the way as children grow and change, and they start taking responsibility for things in their own hands, and you see ways in which things need to be changed
Mhm.
to accommodate changes
Yeah.
in the family dynamic.
Yeah.
And that's hard to do that.
Mhm.
I remember the story of Tim, the young man from New Orleans that's with us now. That once he came over from Katrina, kind of saw how things could happen in the real world. Well, he went back to visit to talk to all of his friends and his family about there is a better life out there.
Yeah.
They wanted
You
to
can
hear
dream it and it
nothing.
happens.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
They
Yeah.
shut him down
Yeah.
and just
Yeah.
they didn't want to hear it.
Now, New Orleans is a special place.
Oh,
It's a very
We had to
interesting
learn.
it is.
Yeah.
And but
Yeah.
he was
Yeah.
one of them.
Yeah.
Especially the
Came
black
back and said,
community.
No, they don't want
Something
to.
different.
guys,
Yeah.
it was.
Yeah.
They're
Because
worse.
he'd never been told, you can really be anything you want to be, basically,
Oh, I
as long
see.
as
Yeah,
you
he was.
put the
put
work
down.
in. And he was like, oh my gosh, you can really do this if
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
he still marvels sometimes at it. But,
Yeah.
How long has he been with you?
Off and on. I mean, he's been here since he was, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So we had him
Yeah.
probably 7 or 8, but part of it is he's been going to college, trying to get
Mm-hmm.
his college degree. And so he was at college for a while, and then he's now working and getting his college, finishing his college
Mhm.
degree. So it's pretty amazing. He came to us when we first met him. He wore the XXX,
Thanks,
size.
thanks.
Yeah,
yeah.
And he weighs like
Yeah.
140 pounds.
Yeah.
It works
Yeah.
very hard to keep all
Yeah.
100. I think he weighed 120 then. And the hat, and the earrings,
Yeah.
and now he wears a suit and a
Yeah.
tie. And he's like classy.
So
He's the
funny.
classiest
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah,
yeah.
And controls his temper. I mean, at one point he had a run in with some people from San Antonio that he'd known, and he came in, he said, I'm going next week, and my guys and I are going to break their knees.
He was going to put him in the car, drive to San Antonio.
Look at him and said, we don't break knees, okay?
Yeah.
I don't know
No.
where this is going, but we
We
don't
don't do
break
that.
knees. I mean, it was just because we realized he was pretty serious, and he was
Yeah.
probably going to be pretty ugly, but we were like, knees?
Well, that's
did you come from?
because we come from a society, level of
Yeah.
society that has more power over what happens to us.
Yes.
That's true.
And that's what we fail to understand.
Yeah.
It's
Yes.
very enlightening. that
Yes,
The way of life and the projects and things there.
I know.
That's in America. That's just across the state line.
I was glad.
That's in the
I was
city.
glad when they didn't rebuild those because I
Yeah.
taught once a week. I went into the projects for JA or something. My company did, and I was in 8th grades. And I was doing economics. Okay, those kids could not form a sentence and write it. And then I had them. Then I asked them, "Well, how many of you been downtown in New Orleans?" Not very many.
Yeah.
They got to
Yeah.
go. They got
Yeah.
free passes for part of the jazz festival to go one day for like
Wow.
X number of hours, and he can tell you everything, every place they
That
get
he-
an ice cream
happened?
they were given just a set
Yeah.
amount. They didn't have enough books in the classroom for everybody to have a book while they were in the classroom.
Do you remember when they came over to Westbury High School, and they got hold of some of those kids and they said, I have a locker that works. I have my own textbook.
Yeah, I mean, it just completely blew them
I mean,
away.
when he went
Yes,
to
it did.
Klein
Same thing
and
with,
they handed him a set of textbooks and said, "You keep these at home." It was just magical. I mean, the only thing
Yeah.
that saved him was he was a voracious reader, and so his mother didn't want him on the streets, but she was a little crazy too. But there's, and so she would occasionally buy an encyclopedia.
Mm.
Oh,
at the
yeah.
grocery store, and that's what he had to read. And so, but he
There you
didn't
go.
understand plagiarism. He thought plagiarism was if you read about something and then you wrote a paper about it, that was plagiarizing it because you didn't think of the idea. And I'm like, okay, somebody
Oh,
tell
I
me.
had a
Yeah.
high school
Report on
teacher
it.
where that was for plagiarism. I was accused of plagiarism because I could not form my own ideas. I was simply repeating the ideas of other people. And at
But
that
when you
age,
have
what else are
something,
you
know,
supposed to
where are you
do?
gonna get it? I mean, that's
10th
a
graders
formula.
don't have new ideas. Grown philosophers don't have new ideas.
No,
about
I
what
mean that was, but that's
Yeah.
how he thought it too. He thought that was, but
poor guy.
he could break, but he's gonna be just fine.
Yeah.
Oh,
He's
yes.
gonna- in fact, he came in. He had a lot of his friends have graduated college now, and so they're all single guys that have apartments and everything. And he's saving everything trying to get through school. And he came in several weeks ago, and he said, "Yeah," he said, "one of them's parents work for a travel agency, and we're going to Rome." I looked at Rick and I said, "I want to go to Rome." I said,
Oh, my
"Wait a minute, we got to
That's
restructure this
right.
living arrangement here. This is not working."
Oh, that's
for us."
fabulous.
So he's going to Rome.
Good. Yeah.
Then he was horrified to stay in a hostel. I'm like, "Oh, it's so much better than you ever
Yeah.
stay.
Yeah.
It'll be fine.
Better in your house."
No, but I mean, just I thinking back, that sort of like going back in the system, the two worlds colliding.
I don't know how some of them.
Yeah,
Well, I always think of like a military person.
yeah,
Can you imagine living in those tents in Afghanistan and
right.
fearing for your life, literally with your gun, and then you come back and take your children to school and drive
And nobody,
the car.
nobody knows what you've been through.
And nobody
Right.
They have
knows
no
any
idea.
I have no idea how you do that. I mean, it was hard enough to come home after the first semester of college. And,
Oh, right.
you know, mom and dad didn't have dinner on the
Yeah.
table at 5 like the dining hall
Yeah,
did. You know,
yeah.
I can't imagine how the military
Did y'all
do it.
see the movie The Hurt Locker? Did you ever see
No,
that?
but
It
I
won Best
remember.
Picture a few years ago.
Yeah, I did.
It's about
I'm not watching it.
a bomb diffuser, like an IED diffuser in Iraq, and he comes back like this, and his wife says, "Will you go get some cereal?" And like the last image is him standing in front of the cereal aisle and not being able to comprehend
The
how to
choices.
pick out
Yeah.
cereal. You know, and it is that sort of
I don't know how you can. I don't know how they
yeah,
come back and it's just. But you know, she's been running the house, and or vice
Yeah.
versa, and
yeah,
even just that dynamic, much less
yeah. It's
grocery
wild.
shopping or
Yeah,
taking
Yeah,
the
yeah,
car
yeah.
because you don't have to wait for the Humvee counter. I
Yeah.
don't know. I just that
Yeah.
always I have so much respect for someone that can
Yep.
come back and make that work.
Yeah.
Even if they stay in the military, I'm sorry, that job is
Yeah.
not the same as what.
No,
it's
oh,
not
yeah. Yeah.
You don't have to have a gun on your hip.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
at least most of the time.
Or the the Bo Bergdahl sort of story.
Mhm.
Are you
Right.
listening?
Right. No, I don't know
Clearly
what
a
the latest
podcast
is.
fan. This yeah.
Who's Bo?
Bobo Doll is the guy that they spent some lives and some time rescuing from the Taliban
Yeah.
in Afghanistan, and then he comes back and they want to try him for
For,
being
treason for court martial.
yeah,
for, like,
court
walking
martial.
face.
Oh,
Yeah,
walking
yeah.
out.
Military
But
guy.
so
Yeah.
saying he actually walked out
Yeah,
of himself
but so
in that position.
listen to the podcast Serial, Serial. The whole so they're doing a whole sort of long stint, just like in
Oh,
depth
really?
about like what all was happening. But it's the same thing. Like, how do you go from
Yeah, the cultural
being in
disconnect.
like captivity to all of a sudden?
Well, and then they're having to help some of the ones that maybe aren't even on their side, but they think they are.
Yeah,
And then they
yeah,
begin to get sympathetic
Yeah.
with the things they see.
Yeah. it's
God, we
wild.
forgot the Stockholm
It's
syndrome.
really,
I
really
mean, you can do
wild
it to
stuff.
yourself.
Yeah, it's wild
Yeah.
stuff.
That's not necessarily something that exists in captivity.
Yeah.
You can do it
Right.
to yourself.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I'm thinking I don't know how that story should go. I do think there's questionable things in there as far as what his
Yeah.
part and things, but what made it that way
Yeah.
is what probably is the
Well,
real
yeah,
question.
it's
is
good
what
we
do
get
do
to
differently
examine
that
Yeah.
These things.
make him,
Yeah.
It's
It's
and
not
I
so
don't think you
important to
fire
make.
somebody
Yeah.
or point a finger. I just think you
Yeah.
figure out what the system was that
Yeah.
No, we need to look at
this
the
young man
dynamic.
Right.
obviously made some choices that maybe.
Yeah,
you
why
know.
did he make those choices? What was
Yeah.
thinking that
And
went
why
into
did we
those
totally
choices?
not get it before the riskiest
Yeah,
capture?
Right.
To
Oh,
bring
yeah.
him back.
Yeah.
Not that we just leave him. I don't mean that, but I just mean all of
Yeah.
it just kind of came out like it was
very.
very bizarre.
Hmm,
Yeah.
it
There was
is.
a
You might-
there was a billboard
Yeah,
about him
yeah.
right over there
Yeah.
at Heathen's Feet
Yeah.
store.
So my final comment on this, and I'll spoil my sermon just a little bit. And this is what I'm preaching on mainly
Let's move
is
us in anyway.
drive through ashes,
Mhm.
and that it is this story, the vitriol that we get as a sort of church community for doing that is
From
unreal.
who?
Really?
From not from our parishioners, but from other churchgoers.
Other churchgoers.
Yeah, who say
You mean other
you're-
churches?
other churches,
Okay.
people that I don't know, like Facebook comments or just like
Really?
snarky emails. Like, and it's really interesting.
Oh, fun.
But it's like, it is that sort of like, here's the system and you do something different and the system says,
Bad boy.
yeah,
And you go,
right. But it is this sort of, this weird interplay of like,
well, yeah, that is.
so
That
just,
is
comfort in what they thought was right.
Right.
That's right. That is
Yeah.
that is fairly
And religious
Nazareth, isn't
people
it?
are really good at that.
Oh, yeah.
They're really
Telling
good
you how
at
you're
that.
doing it the wrong way.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
exactly right. And
Right.
don't
And
change
I'm
that word
sure,
in the prayer book.
I'm sure Jim Laboratory gets the same kind of stuff.
oh, yeah.
Pull out your cell phones in church and start
Yeah.
tweeting
Yeah,
in
yeah,
the middle of a sermon.
yeah.
or some,
Or he's got this
Probably
wacky
just
idea I
swing
want to try
Yeah.
called the church has left the building.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, like where so one Sunday morning everybody goes and does service projects around the community
Oh,
instead of
okay.
actually come. How
All right.
cool is that?
All right. All
After his
right.
first year, he had
You can
to,
do that.
He had to start having people at the church and have kolaches and maybe a little more interpreters. There are people that would come to visit.
That's right.
Right,
There's
exactly.
nobody
Like,
there.
sorry, like,
It's-
Pull on the
First
door,
time
the
visitor.
door's
First
locked. Yeah.
year he had to- they had to-
You gotta
You
figure
just,
something out.
you just give them a list.
Yeah.
Hey,
That's right.
people
This is
come
where we
visit
all
here.
are. And
Oh,
if you like
yeah.
this,
You're taking
please
envelope.
do.
Yeah,
You go.
exactly.
Yeah,
But
we have
it-
so many visitors here, we would definitely.
Oh, yeah,
somebody
exactly.
go
We have to have people here.
face
Yeah, yeah.
the door.
But it is that sort of, yeah, Jim's the classic example of that. He's the priest
He
of
lives so
Caroline.
far outside the.
Yeah.
Which is so cool. I mean,
What's
he
his-
visits. He,
Jim Libertor.
Where is
St.
it?
Andrews,
Over
St.
in,
Andrews,
the
Pearland.
In
Oh.
Pearland.
Pearland.
Yeah. And so I think he, he's been there for like 20 years. And I think that's probably the model of Church of the Holy Comforter will be, because it is the sort of heavily commuter sort of place.
Yeah, so it's
Uh,
Pearland.
they're
Right.
called pumpkin church.
Right.
So pumpkins, that's how they pay for
The
Yeah.
pumpkin church.
all their
all
outreach.
their
Yeah.
outreach.
So
It's
Wow.
big.
That's
a
And
lot of
they
pumpkins.
sell pumpkins. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
They're like
It's
fourth in the
incredible
nation
how
at one
much-
point. They,
Yeah.
They're in the top.
boy, talk about
places.
Oh, yeah,
commitment.
it's
I mean, Rick
crazy.
and I are dying to go over there and
We tried
move
that
the
one
truck or
time.
something.
Oh, yeah,
Be
yeah.
Part of it.
Private
Yeah.
ones too, which
Yeah.
is horrific.
But he's just,
Can't
he
imagine
was
it.
what was Jim before? He wasn't a scientist.
Yeah, I forgot. Well, I'll shut
Some
this
kind
down.
of
Of course,
salesman.
y'all always feel free to email me, Jimmy@holycomforterspring.org. Thank you.